It's all good. So we're gonna go over Kyrie Irving first. Dropped 22 points in his first game back. Um, I mean, vaccination status aside, man, I thought I thought he looked great. And truth be told, just if you were to tell me on paper Kyrie Irving gets to only play half of the games during the season, whether they're home or away games, I'd be like, that's a dangerous combination. Because Kyrie has like historically not the greatest track record in regards to durability. I'm like not a Kyrie hater, so you're not gonna find any Kyrie slander out of me. I'm from New York, so to me, like Kyrie Irving, I don't know. I'm not gonna say he's better than Steph, but to me, like I identify more with Kyrie if that makes sense, because Kyrie's kind of seen as like this divisive guy who thinks his own way and does things his own way, and he's better at dribbling than shooting. So like, I think a lot of people from the East Coast and a lot of people like myself who are independent thinkers, we'll put it that way, tend to gravitate more towards a Kyrie than we would a Steph. I think everybody appreciates Steph greatness, but there's this like underdog quality or misunderstood quality about Kyrie that I think is really prevalent amongst a lot of people my age and also a lot amongst a lot of younger people that I feel gets kind of like overblown and lost in the media. Maybe it's um, a symptom of the fact that it seems like mainstream media doesn't really mess with Kyrie that much. But I personally was extremely excited to see him come back. I'm glad to see that he's playing well. What is it? They got the win over Portland last night too. Absolutely blew him out in the third. I mean, Portland doesn't have Damian Lillard, and I don't think CJ McCollum was playing either. Truth be told, I'm not even sure if Anthony Simmons was playing. So, like, I mean, their roster is basically as depleted as it can come, but it's still comforting to know that, like, the team does seem to play better with Kyrie, considering how much they've given up, like, throughout their entire roster. I think that that's another thing that's, like,
Anthony
totally
Simons was the leading scorer in that game for Portland.
there.
Just FYI.
I appreciate that. Thank you for the heads up. I honestly wouldn't have known though because I watched the recap on the game on League Pass and like I specifically watched it for the third because I remember watching the score of the game and like at the end of the third, Brooklyn was up by like 15 points. So I was like, whatever happened in the third, that basically decided the game. Um, and yeah, I don't know. Like I'm excited to see Kyrie back. It's comforting to know that all that time off has done them well. One thing I will say though that has become glaringly obvious to me even before I got League Pass, but now that I have League Pass and I'm able to see the stats in real time and able to see the rosters concurrently while the game is playing, it is shocking to me how depleted and it seems like how non-veteran laden the rest of the Nets roster is. Like outside of Wilson Chandler and Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge, who is seemingly doing nothing for everybody if they picked him up in fantasy. Um, also, oh my God, what's his name? Joe Harris is out. He's injured. Um, dude, it's like a G League roster, man. It is literally without exaggeration a G League roster. What the Nets are putting out there on a nightly basis with KD predominantly, honestly, because Harden's missed a couple games throughout the season as well. And like, I don't know if it's the rule changes, but Harden's not the same player that he was in Houston. Like, the media isn't talking about it. It's not trending, but like, he's just not that guy, bro. He's not the guy that you can give the ball to and you know that he's going to get you 30 points on a night in, night out basis. And I feel like it has a lot to do with officiating, which will hopefully change in the playoffs. But like, I feel like we forgot how annoying or unwatchable like a Houston game was because Harden was such a cheat code at drawing fouls. And again, like I prefaced by saying, hey, like we know, we obviously know that like Harden's play isn't necessarily the most watchable thing or the most exciting thing. But as a basketball fan, it's like, goddamn if it's not effective though. You know what I'm saying? Like he literally was able to figure out a way to crack the code. And to me, he shouldn't be penalized for that. Other players should continue to be penalized for continuously fouling him. So the Nets are in an interesting situation. I, truth be told, think that it would be better if they just pay the fine and let Kyrie play all the games. And I feel like that's where this is trending. They just have to kind of let public outcry settle down a little bit. And once the CDC raises its recommendations, then they can go ahead and do that move for like PR reasons. But I think it's only a matter of time before you see Kyrie playing in all Nets games, as opposed to just away games.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I obviously want to preface in the recording, just because I said it's before the recording, that I do not have a webcam for this recording, but hopefully next one I will. But going off again with the Nets, agreed. I think, yeah, the Nets, some of the Nets, the five that they've been sending out, yeah, the rotation, some of them have been absolute just jiggly players. One of the guys you forgot to mention was Patty Mills. He played both in the Bulls game and the Portland game as well. He was better in the Bulls game, but Patty Mills is there too, and he's been playing very well for the Nets this season as well. I do agree. I think the Nets should ultimately just fork up the fine, because the fine only gets up to $5,000, and I think, what is that, like, that's how much you pay for like a technical foul now, and hell, there are some players who are known for technical fouls. So I don't think that's that big of a deal, and for an NBA franchise, $5,000 is nothing. So agreed, they should just pay Kyrie. What else have you mentioned? James Harden.
Salary, honestly, bro. Like, if it's like 5,000, we should look up how much Kyrie loses per game, because I feel like probably offset, dude. Like, if I was the Nets, I would just be like, yo, Kyrie, whatever this fine is, like, I'm literally going to take it out of what we're fining you for your salary for not playing home games and give you the difference. Like, that just makes, like, why they didn't do that from the beginning, it just makes monetary sense.
He would probably lose literally like one game's value of money, and that would probably be
right.
It.
That's
and if now, it would probably, because he'd probably miss another. We're about halfway through the season, so maybe another 30 to 40 games. So at $5,000, so yeah, I mean, solid amount of money, but I mean, ultimately, that's a game or two for him.
Dude, if we're talking 5,000 times 82, or 5,000 times, let's just say idealistically it's 41, right? If it was like an 82 game season and 41 games were played at home, like whatever 5,000 times 41 is,
205,000.
Yeah, bro, that's a fucking joke. Like, that's nothing compared to Kyrie Irving's
That's
yearly.
Like half what LeBron makes per game.
Let's like completely exclude the fact that this man has a Nike deal that's paying him a lucrative amount of money on the side. Like,
no matter if he plays in an NBA game or not.
Bro, yeah, like, honestly, I don't know, man. Like, vaccination status aside, vaccine status aside, like, to me, it makes absolutely no monetary sense or basketball sense how we just figured out why Kyrie Irving should have been playing since the beginning of the year, bro. Because I literally would have said that. I would have been like, hey, morally, we disagree. We're going to put out a statement. We feel that everybody should be vaccinated. You don't want to get vaccinated. We would prefer it. We'll give you an opportunity to. But if not, you're going to pay to make sure that you can play, because that helps our brand. Like, to me, like, the Nets are hurting their brand by not letting Kyrie play. Like, whatever altruistic stance you're taking, so be it. But at the end of the day, people are Nets fans because of Kyrie Irving. Like, you're not going to get more Nets fans from not letting Kyrie play than you would having him play. So based off that rationale alone, like, he should have just been paying to be able to play in all these games, man. Honestly, it doesn't make any fucking sense to me. But
I do agree with that. I kind of subscribe to the idea. I was listening to JJ Redick's podcast, and he had Josh Hart on, and JJ asked him if they, were, waiting, or, if they were heavily waiting for Zion's return. And the answer Josh gave was, I thought, a similar answer to the mentality that I think the Brooklyn Nets were going to take this season until all this other stuff started to happen, is that Josh said, obviously we want him back, but we're not planning to have him back, because it's like if you're planning for him, then it's kind of like you're relying on him to make you better. And I think that's obviously the direction that Brooklyn wanted to go. Is, are you probably a better basketball team having Kyrie Irving on the floor, even 41 games out of 82, rather than just 0 games? 100%. But it's the, if in those 41 games, he's averaging, anywhere from, I mean, let's even go kind of a low end, 22 to 26. That's easy for Kyrie, especially if he's practicing stuff like that and everything like that. I mean, he could easily score 22 to 26. But if you're counting on that during the games where you don't have him, obviously you're hurting a little bit more, versus if you get that continuity without him, you're never really losing him. Rather, when you get him, yeah, it might be a little bit of a change for some people, but I mean, it's more like you're better if you have him without planning versus trying to plan and only have him 50%. I don't know, I kind of said that weird at the end, but that's kind of the direction I kind of lean with it. And so yeah, but I do. And I think the Kyrie's situation kind of makes it even more crazy when you do throw in the fact that James Harden obviously was kind of different this season. I kind of put it more at the beginning because it did seem more like kind of like a rule change initially. But the thing that I feel like I noticed is that James Harden he would always look for the foul. He's not looking for the bucket. So it's like, it's like when we train kids, it's like we're training them. Yeah, you want to take the contact, but you're not looking for contact. You're just, okay, well, I'm gonna go up, and if I get hit, I'm trying to finish the bucket. You're not. It's like he was looking to create the foul, get the foul, and make his free throws. The and one bucket was pretty much second priority to the foul, and I felt like that was the main problem with him at first. But I mean, and he's had good games here and there. I feel like there shouldn't be that much of a difference between James Harden of last year and James Harden of this year. I feel like his mentality is a little weird, and I feel like he would have gotten it together. But again, it's only halfway through the season, so he could definitely have a real great second half, and that could just balance out the entire year. So I'm not going to write him off just yet. But I feel like it's low-key kind of his mentality to some degree, but I do get what you're saying. He is getting penalized a little bit. He does get grabbed quite frequently and pulled down. But I think it's just the fact that because he complains even over little things, it's one of those things where, they're not going to give him some calls, even when it's obvious, because you complain even over the little things. So, which again is not right. That's not right for refs to do that, but it's just one of those unwritten things that happens.
Facts. And yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I definitely agree. Harden used to look for the foul more than draw the foul, if that makes sense. So I could see that, but like, there's been hella times, dude, that he drives to the lane and it's a legit foul. And it's like, come on, bro. Like, you're not going to give him the call. Like, I don't know, man. It's an interesting situation to be in. It's almost like he's a victim of his own success, truth be told, because you're so good at doing something, and now that somebody's taking that from you. Not to say he doesn't have other skills, but it's such a reliant skill set for him to have that I feel like it is like his shooting. I don't think has gone down, but I definitely think his ability to drive has been impeded by the rule change.
Yeah, definitely. I just think that if he were to like have the mentality of, no, I'm just going to go out and get buckets, I feel like we would see that old James Harden again. And literally, even if people are, because honestly, like, James Harden's a lot stronger, and I feel like it is kind of like mentality throughout the league as a whole, and it's kind of more obviously recent, and it's why a lot of old heads would call the league soft nowadays, is that, there were just a lot of soft fouls called. So if, there are some guys who will, sometimes draw the foul, act soft, and then there's other times, and I think LeBron's a big one of the biggest guys when doing this is that there will be some plays where, you know, he'll act real soft. He'll get touched a little bit and he'll kind of flop. And there's other times when, you know, he'll get grabbed full 2 arms on the shoulder, on the arm, and it does not matter because you are not stopping that man. But it's, if James Harden went and he tried to score and he wasn't, and he had the mentality that nobody was going to stop him, I think he would look different. I just think that little switch would mean everything for him. But you are correct. He shouldn't be a victim. But when it's like 90% of what you do, you know, people are going to kind of look past it. It's like the boy who cried wolf. You know, not every time you cry foul is someone going to give you a foul. So now because you always cried foul, and now no one's going to look for foul. So.
No, yeah, facts. You want to move on to Klay?
Yeah, go for it.
Klay's return, I'm not going to lie, to me, Kyrie looked smoother in his return. But in regards to just like downright efficiency, I'm not going to say shocked, but I was very encouraged by how athletic Klay looked. Like, I'm a big Klay fan. I'm not going to say I'm the biggest Klay fan in the world, but and I'm going to say something slanderous here to a lot of people. To me, like, Klay Thompson's shot looks the prettiest in the NBA right now. Like, I understand Curry is the best shooter of all time, but to me, Curry has a quick release, like perfect release right now. And I'm even going to say it, to me, a nicer looking jump shot than even Ray Allen. Like, Klay Thompson's jump shot looks absolutely perfect to me.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
Agreed.
I remember getting in the biggest argument, and this was like 4 or 5 years ago. This was after Golden State's first ring, where they were going to go up against Cleveland, second year in a row, the only championship Cleveland got against them, where I got in an argument with my then supervisor at the time because he was adamant that Jimmy Butler was a better player than Klay Thompson. Now, you and I can have that argument on a different day if you want to take the Jimmy Butler position, because I refuse to acknowledge that Jimmy Butler is a better player than Klay. But nonetheless, in his return, man, like, I think we're going to get the Klay everybody always wanted to see, because I think that he is eager to prove not only that he is a top 75 player of all time, but I think he's eager to prove I'm not catch and shoot Klay. I'm not this person you remember that really wasn't me, because Klay always was good off the dribble. If you gave Klay 2 to 3 dribbles, he'd still get you. It's when Klay tried to dribble 4, 5, 6 times that you kind of knew as a defender, okay, he's looking to pass it. Klay isn't really that guy off the dribble. But I don't know, man, just in regards to energy, in regards to how he can space the court once he's made a couple shots, I think the Warriors by far are going to have the best team in the league probably for the next 5 or 6 years, because you've got Poole, you've got Klay, you've got Curry, you've got Draymond, you've got Iggy for a couple more years, you've got Kevin Looney, who is, I mean, a borderline starting power forward in the league. You've got Wiseman, who still hasn't come back, who his ceiling is just as big as any young players nowadays. Like, I think the Warriors should be terrified. Or wait, no, the Nets should be terrified of the Warriors rather, because I genuinely think this is the only year that the Nets can win the championship as they are currently constructed. KD and Harden are due for new deals, so there's no guarantee that Harden's even going to be back, truth be told. Based on his level of play, I would honestly anticipate that he'd go somewhere else, especially after he won a ring. But if he didn't, probably go somewhere else just so you can get back to being the star that everybody recognizes you for. So I think the perfect storm is brewing for a Nets Golden State final. It's what I want to see. I think it's what the NBA wants and what a lot of young fans would want to see as well, because I don't see the Lakers being able to fix their roster problems within a year. LeBron's not that guy where he can carry a team single-handedly to the finals, and LeBron is not beating Golden State, even with AD back with the team they have now. So let's just dead that. That's not happening. Yeah, man, I don't know. I think that's the situation and circumstance that the Warriors find themselves in. Working Klay back in is going to be the best problem that they could possibly have all season. But I think the rest of the league, maybe Memphis, even Memphis included, honestly, because they did beat the Golden State Warriors, but Draymond wasn't playing. So to me, I mean, it's a moral win, but that's not a win in actuality because Draymond's one of their most important pieces. I get that the Grizzlies didn't have Dylan Brooks. That's an important piece for them as well. But I just don't see a team beating the Warriors outside of the Nets. And I only think the Nets have this year to do it because outside of that, once Wiseman comes back and Poole has another year of this league under his belt, I think Poole's going to emerge as a starter. And yeah, man, I genuinely think it's wraps. Klay is not even going to be in a rhythm for the rest of the season, just based on the amount of games that it takes to play. So next year, once Klay has his feet under him and he understands the speed of the game again and Wiseman is fully recovered from his ACL, like it probably will be a better team than the KD Warriors, man. If we're just looking at what they were able to put together as an organization, like I just don't know what you do.
Yeah, I think the Warriors overall ended up just working out super well with the players they signed in. But, you got to give credit to the players that they signed that, they bought into that system, which ultimately made them successful, which obviously kudos to them. But, it does go both ways. But I do agree. Klay Thompson did look pretty well while he moved. And obviously while Klay Thompson, I feel like I might even low-key be more athletic than Klay Thompson. He just has a lot higher IQ than me when it comes to defense. Yeah, we got to be similar when it comes to athletic ability because man, I've seen that man miss dunks and that man is 6'7". But no, but all jokes aside, yeah, for a guy that doesn't really rely on his athleticism, obviously I was worried just because obviously 2 leg injuries are still 2 leg injuries regardless. So I was still a little worried on that, but I don't think he's really going to be affected too much. And obviously his shooting's never going to go anywhere. So I think with your prediction of the 5 to 6 years, I see where you're coming from. I think it'll come down to whether or not these younger guys adopt the same mentality as Steph, Klay, and Draymond, where they are willing to sacrifice even money to keep a team together if it means the overall success of the team. That's super important, I think. And if those young guys, the Wisemans, the Pools, I don't know how old is Gary Payton? That's Otto Porter. That's not who I meant to click on. While I'm looking up them, but if those guys adopt them and he's 29. Wow, he's a lot older than I thought he was.
Yeah, Otto Porter's old, bro.
But they do have these few younger guys, and if they draft another 1 or 2 that end up being nice, if they develop that mentality, then of course I could absolutely see them have a very long reign, just control over the league. And I see what you're saying about the Nets. I think they would have a better team than the Nets. I don't think they'd have the better players overall. I guess we could have that discussion about Klay Thompson or Jimmy Butler. That would be an interesting discussion. I think I would probably agree with you, but I could probably give some solid arguments though. But I do think that the Nets are going to only be good for so long. I just think with the amount of money that you have to pay 3 of those guys, and all 3 of those guys are still going to be looking for max money no matter what. They're not really in the situation of buying into taking less and hoping that, that leads to a championship. I've never gotten that kind of vibe from either Kyrie or Harden. So I could probably see it from Harden just because if his dip and his his dip in his play continues and, he never really solves it. I could see him once his deal is done, taking less just because he understands it. I feel like he's more reasonable that way. But I feel like with Kyrie, he's definitely always just kind of looked out for himself, which it's not a bad thing. But at the same time, that can definitely hurt a franchise and hurt a team if you're only ever really looking out for yourself. You're correct. I don't know if I see the Lakers kind of getting their stuff together. I think the Warriors are probably going to end up being up there. I could see either the Grizzlies or the Suns challenging them, but I think it's probably going to end up being those three. The Lakers, I heard something interesting that the Lakers should put Russ back in the pick and roll as the pick, and just have him roll to the basket, try and finish, dunk, whatever the case may be, and just, throw LeBron back at the point forward, point guard, whatever you want to call him. And I would probably agree with that. I think that would make Russ a little bit more effective, pretty much have him play the power forward or center position in terms of play style, pretty much what he was kind of doing with Houston in the bubble. But because him standing out by the 3-point line, or pretty much anywhere outside of 15 feet is really just, has not been looking good for the Lakers, and he just turns the ball over, man, at a just a rate that I feel like is not discussed enough, as well as that while I think Russ's confidence has gone down, I think overall he has taken a hit in just his play. I think I think that's a big contributing factor to why the Lakers are not playing as well. And agreed, even with AD coming back, not that AD was playing like AD of a couple of years ago. So it's not, that wouldn't even matter. LeBron's doing the best he can, but you're right. I don't see the Lakers being up there. And I kind of feel bad for LeBron a little bit, but he kind of did put himself in a situation. But I also think there are a couple things that he didn't see coming that there's no way you could have. So it kind of sucks. But
Westbrook missing all of his layups, bro.
Dude, all of them. Like he breaking shots left, right, up, down. AD said, "Nah, I'm good. I won one championship, and now I'm the best power forward to ever live." And it's just like, yo, LeBron's looking like, wow, I did not fucking see this coming. When Melo's your second best, like the most consistent guy that you picked up, then damn. And I'm sure there's probably other more consistent guys than Melo other than LeBron, but it's like, damn, it's tragic, honestly, what's happening over there.
Melo, man, we knew what we was going to get out of Melo. I feel like Melo's overachieving. I think one of the biggest travesties this year is AD being named to the top 75 team and Klay being left off it. Like,
I think Dwight Howard should have been on there too, if we're talking about big men.
Hey, I'm not going to lie. I disagreed with people that were like, yo, Dwight Howard should be on there. But you know what? I'll say this on record right now. Dwight Howard should be on there over AD. He should 1,000% be on that list over AD. Klay Thompson should be on that list over AD. Like, you could literally put I put Sean Marion on that goddamn list over AD, bro. Like, AD is not even a top 5 player in this league, bro. He's not even a top 15 player in this league when healthy. Like, I'm not a fan of Anthony Davis's game. I don't think that he's the best power forward. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't, bro. Honestly, I put Ja Morant over AD right now, bro.
I just think it's like, when that was kind of the one thing that always bothered me about AD, and my buddy, and granted, this was either AD's last season in New Orleans or his second to last, where my buddy was saying that he was, better than LeBron. He was if you were ranked players right now in the league, he would be higher than LeBron. And the one thing I always just didn't like about AD was just, yeah, he could score 40 and grab you 15 rebounds, no problem. But it's just like, he didn't try to do it. And that was the biggest issue. I was like, then if he has an off night, he has a real big off night, because he's not looking to go get buckets. He just is so good and so skilled that he can just get them just because he's that good. And if he got his mentality up to where he was like, nah, no one's going to stop me, it'd be hard to stop that man. Like, if he had the mentality of Giannis or even Jokic, Embiid, any one of those guys, like, he could be significant. He would probably be the best big man in the league easily right now, just because of all. I mean, I'd say right now he would 100% be the best big man if he had that kind of mentality, but he just doesn't. So it's like that impedes so much, just because you never really know what you're going to get out of him.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think to
It's
tie it
definitely
back,
frustrating.
LeBron messed up, man. I don't know. This is like it's the same thing as Harden, man. He's a victim of his own success. You can only play GM for so long before it blows up in your face and you have nobody to blame
Yeah.
but yourself for having constructed the roster. I mean, he did get Malik Monk right though. Malik Monk has been absolutely balling.
Yeah, when
out
he's
for the
played, he
Lakers.
has. I plan on making this video on my other YouTube, but I guess I just never ended up getting around to it. The Lakers had expressed, or no, it wasn't the Lakers, but Demarderozan had expressed interest in taking a pay cut to go to the Lakers. And I'm thinking about that now, and I'm like, damn, that literally would have been exactly what they thought they were going to get from Russ. DeMar DeRozan's been scoring amazingly this summer. Easily, you could probably say this is his best season in his career, which is weird about, 13, 14 years into someone's career. This is now their best season. He's been shooting better from three. His playmaking's been significantly better over the past few years. Never really been known for defense, but he at least gives some kind of effort, which again is more you can say for Russ. And I just think he's not making the careless turnovers, and he would be doing literally everything that you would have wanted Russ to do. And because then at that point you could rest LeBron, and LeBron can all of a sudden, maybe he playing that 25 to 30 minutes a game, DeMar DeRozan doing his thing, even with AD out, man, him and LeBron would be going crazy right now. But it's like you said, yeah, he's just a victim of his own success, and unfortunately Russ just took as that huge decline, and now the Lakers are obviously suffering for it. But I do think it would have been interesting. What if to think that they would have chosen DeMar DeRozan and signed him instead, even over Buddy Hield. I think DeMar DeRozan would have fit better even over Buddy Hield.
I think, and I agree, I think he would have done better over Buddy Hield. I think that the right pickup was definitely DeMar. And DeMar's even touched on it. He said, like, it was all but a done deal, basically. But it just didn't happen. I'm going to throw something out there that might be controversial, but I'm not going to lie, man. I feel like sometimes because LeBron is so ball dominant and he has to have the ball in his hands, like, I don't know if we would have gotten the opportunity to see DeMar in the same leadership role that he's in Chicago, because think about it. He's got the ball so much in his hands in that offense for Chicago. Like Kobe White or Alex Caruso or Lonzo Ball, like Lonzo's passing has been on full display in transition or when he's pushing the ball up after a turnover. But for the most part in the half court, DeMar's got the ball because he was damn near running point guard for the San Antonio offense for 3 years. So, like, I don't know if we would have seen DeMar at this same level if he signed with the Lakers, if that makes sense. So it's nice to explore the shoe on the opposite foot, but I don't even know if it would have fit, truth be told. They could have been in the same scenario that they're in right now, where it's like DeMar's missing all his fucking layups. They should have gotten Westbrook. You know what I mean? Like, Westbrook's balling out for the Bulls. Like, who the fuck knows, dude? Like, I just think DeMar and Zach, like, I think DeMar went to the perfect situation with Zach LaVine. Like, I think that those are two of the only wing players in the modern NBA that would comfortably play together. Like, when I look at the Bulls, nobody's made this comparison on ESPN or First Take or anything like that or Undisputed. But when I look at the Bulls and I see how well Zach LaVine and Kawhi are playing together, I'm like, this is what I was expecting Kawhi and Paul George to be.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like Kawhi is kind of weird to get into a rhythm with, but I definitely feel what you're saying. I'll disagree with you slightly just because I feel like the thought with Russ was get LeBron off ball because that'll be how how he'll really be able to play till he's 42 or 43 or whatever his goals ultimately are for playing in the NBA. You get to rest him. He plays off ball. Russ's mentality, pushing AD further would help him. Those were all the biggest reasons why I kind of saw. And, Russ, off his effort and skill alone from the past few years, could literally win you anywhere from 30 to 40 games just because of how great he could be. Now, obviously, that's not the case this season, which, again, is one of the tragic things. But I think if the goal was to get LeBron off ball so that he can only have to worry about scoring, and he doesn't have to worry about playmaking and doing all this other stuff, I feel like you still would see, maybe you wouldn't see DeMar as great as he is right now, as great as he's been playing, but I think you'd probably see a solid 80 to 90% of what he's doing right now. And you're right, LeBron would still be kind of the quote unquote leader. Well, I mean, it would still be his team, but I think you'd still see a similar version of DeRozan just because that's what would be required of him.
Facts. And I could see that. I could see DeMar still coming to play. I don't know. I've always thought, ever since I saw Mo Williams get signed to the Cavs, like Mo Williams was balling out of control. And I feel like there's this LeBron effect where, like, if you've been balling out, like, you'll play well with him to start, and then, like, your talents kind of bottom out. I don't know. I have a different mentality when it comes to LeBron. I think that he's a great player, definitely the greatest small forward of all time. I just feel like he's too ball dominant sometimes. Like, if LeBron, and again, it's part of his IQ. The man feels like he's got to have the ball in his hands damn near every play. I get it, but like,
you do put your ball in the hands of the smartest player, and unfortunately, whatever court LeBron's on, he's the smartest player. So
facts. I wish that there were more like coaches that were comfortable telling LeBron, like, you're gonna get the ball, but like on the block, like catch the ball in the center of the defense, and then from there, make a play. Like, I don't know, man. I just very much am still of the mentality, and I'm super old school where I'm like, why the fuck isn't LeBron posting up every time? Like, to me, LeBron is goddamn near unstoppable when he's posting up. So that's why it just frustrates me at the end of the games. Like, why is he dribbling the fucking ball up, bro? Like, it should be AD on one block, LeBron on the other, and three shooters spacing the court with like somebody that you trust with the ball in their hands, so that once LeBron gets the ball on the high post, whatever side that he's comfortable with, from then there LeBron can make a play. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. It's just, it all comes down to like the different sets that different teams are running, and obviously that's not the way that LeBron James wants to play. But again, like, it's interesting to me, like how much LeBron has influenced the modern NBA too, where like we're not even, like, him and Curry both, like, we're not even thinking about posting up nowadays for like still what is one of the most physically dominant players in the league. Like, we're not thinking about putting them in a position of advantage on the floor. It's still like, nah, just put the ball in his hands and let him face up. Like,
yeah, I feel like that was the intention, or obviously maybe not to the exact degree that you were explaining, but again, I think that was the intention of this season. But ultimately, Russ just started failing too often and too quickly this at the beginning, that it was a roller coaster from there. And I was like, well, if you're not going to put it in Russ's hands, you want it in LeBron's hands, obviously, between the two. So that's just a fucking no brainer. 5 years ago, that's still the case. So it doesn't matter. But yeah, no, 100%. If you could just get LeBron down to scoring, and again, yeah, that was actually one of the topics I kind of also wanted to bring up when we got into kind of talking about coaching, and any kind of coaching advice we could put out there, was obviously just mismatches and just posting up, because it's definitely a lost art nowadays. And you know what? I'll kind of just transition to coaching advice from here anyway, just since you kind of just happened to bring it up anyway. One of the videos I uploaded on my TikTok about a month or a couple months ago was that players need to still work. It's young players, obviously, and well, any basketball player needs to work on their overall game. Like, yes, like based on analytics nowadays, the 3-point shot, if you are efficient at shooting it, is the higher percentage shot and better shot to take, again, if you make it at that high of a rate and at that kind of efficiency. But the problem is that, you look at Steph on how he's shooting now, and you can just, the greatest shooter of all time goes on some of the greatest slumps of all time, because unfortunately that's just how it works.
Yeah.
The world has to be balanced. He makes some of the most impossible shots. So of course, when he's cold, he's going to be colder than any other fucking player to ever exist. Now, again, with that being said, there has the potential to be a lot more guys like Shaq who could just be this physically imposing guy. But because we keep shoving down players' throats that this is the new way, shooting threes and everything like that, the game, how I've always been told, basketball is a game of mismatches and a game of runs. You are looking to go on a run, stop the other team from going on a run, and you are looking for mismatches. If you are just straight bigger and more skilled than some players, you need to just put them on the block, like you said, and just go to work. And that was one of the biggest things that that I kept hearing about Kristaps Porzingis the last couple seasons in Dallas, or his last season in Dallas, was that players wanted him to be, or coaches wanted him to be on the post, but it was statistically, whenever he got to the post, he was just so crap that it was not even worth putting him down there on a mismatch, even when he had someone who was like 6'3" on him, because he was just that bad. But if players worked on that back to the basket skill, they could be so unguardable, because like, oh, okay, well, you a little quicker than me. Well, I'm a little bigger than you. So hold on, let me put you on the block real quick. And all of a sudden you start switching things up, because now you're taking advantage of those mismatches, but you can't take advantage of those mismatches if you don't have the skills to do it. And that's what a lot of players are definitely lacking these days.
Facts. And then I think the other thing too, and I'll say it more from a coaching perspective than a training perspective, I think it has a lot to do with the modern scene of there being a lot of like trainers that are just popping up. And some of them, let's be honest, are snake oil salesmen. They're going to have you fucking dribble upside down on a Bosu ball and be like, it's getting ready for the game. You know what I mean? Like, and it's fucking not. It has no translation to the game. But I just think that there's a lot more individuality in today's game, which lends itself to working on an individual skill set like three-pointers. But from a coach's standpoint, in a game, a lot of the plays and the sets that we're running, or even concepts of emotion offense, are all predicated on, for the most part, getting layups or mid-range jump shot. So it takes a lot of like the play calling and the nuance out of the game when at the end of the day, you're going to be shooting a three from one of 5 spots, or literally trying to get a point blank layup. You know what I mean? Like, it makes for a very predictable offense. And what I will say is I think that there is kind of that where we're getting away from like, what's the mismatch, or how can I get an easy 2 in transition? You know what I mean? Or how can I get an easy 2 off a dribble handoff or a designated play that we're running? Like, I don't know. The game is definitely higher scoring. The analytics support the trend staying, but I think that there will be a resurgence, not necessarily of big man, but of there being more post play. And I'll be the first to say it. I think that a guard is going to set the trend before a forward does. I think there's going to be a guard that comes along that's so good at posting up, whether it be their body type or just skill set, that you're going to start to see other teams in the league replicate it. Like, I think guards set the trends now in the modern NBA, and I will be shocked if there's not a guard that ends up setting the trend for post-up play. Because if you think about it, the first time it was Michael and Kobe, really, that were like defining that a guard could have big man skills, and now big men want guard skills. So, like, it's been a complete changing of the guard.
Yeah. Oh, nice pun there. I do agree with you. I'll disagree with you, the fact that I don't know if it'll be a guard. I just think if Zion gets healthy, I think that might be what could start it back, even though he's kind of the size of most, like 2 to 3s, but he still plays kind of that power forward position. But I think he would be one. He would maybe be a guy who could start it, because I mean he could average 25 to 28 just off having nice touch around the rim and just off his effort and just his IQ of the game of basketball. But I do agree. I think we will see. I think the game will just go back eventually. Maybe not to just trying to score on the post or focusing back on the mid range or anything like that. Or anything like that. But I think it will start to be a healthy mix, and I think we already are kind of starting to see it now with even last year's finals. As good of there were a lot of great 3-point shooters in the finals in this past finals, but ultimately it came down to what'd you do inside the 3-point line, because both the Suns and the Bucks shot horribly from 3. Maybe I don't know about statistically whether or not they both shot horribly, but from the eye test, from me just watching, it seemed like they were missing both teams were missing a lot of 3s, and it just came down to who was going to make their mid-range shots, who was going to play the best defense, who was going to make the most layups, who was going to get the rebound, everything like this. Who was going to execute best at the end of the day, and ultimately it ended up being the Bucks. So I think the game again will transition back. Maybe it could be a guard, and maybe it could be a big man, but I think it is just good for players to recognize that, look for it anytime. And that just needs to be the biggest thing. Look for your mismatches, and it could be at anything. It could be as simple as getting the mismatch of, hey, come set a pick, and if the big switches, it's the point guard or shooting guard on the center. It's as simple as that. Or the other way around. Now you got you got their point guard or shooting guard guarding your center. Whatever it is, go back to the basics. It's so simple to do, and it's just a forgotten art almost.
No, yeah, like you said, it's a completely forgotten art, and it's strange to see the trickle down for kids as well, because I don't know, man. Curry is definitely, I think anybody that wants to argue LeBron, not as a better player, but was more influential over the last 10 years, is not tapped into youth sports, because not even jersey wise, but just in the way that kids play nowadays, I don't even think that they're aware of it. But I'm like, you guys are all little Steph Curry clones out here, man. You guys are all trying to play a game at a skill level that is going to escape you at this point. There's no way
y'all are trying to play at a skill level that only one player has managed to achieve so far.
Historically, and I think the other thing too that I don't want to get lost in this is it's not Steph Curry hate, and it's not hating on modern players to say maybe wait until your sophomore year of high school, because I know that's when I did, to even start feeling comfortable shooting a 3 in a game, because what you're also taking away from is all the developmental aspects that you're going to learn about yourself in the interim. You know what I mean? I knew for a fact, 8th grade, freshman year, I'm not making a 3. So if I get it at the 3, this is the move that I know I can do, my go-to move when I'm taking it inside. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to do it in and out off the reverse pivot, go between, or go between. And if they bite, I can go into a cross for my jump shot here. Or if I'm on the left side, I go that. You know what I mean? It really helps you develop. Your game has to develop inside out, not outside in, I think, in order for you to be an effective player at any level. So I don't know. I
That's
just feel
what most coaches preach anyway. Start your shots, go from inside, and work out.
Exactly. But everything starts, and even when you and I train together, it's form shooting, layups, then mid range, then 3s. And you got to make 100 mid range before we even get to 3s, because it's muscle memory too.
Yeah, and as a guy who's played center damn near his whole life, except for when he finally got to college, he became a power forward. I was not ever even allowed to like really even touch the 3-point line. Like if I was out that far, like I was yelled at just because I was, and no coach
Yeah, they're
ever
like, why
really
are you
focused.
floating?
Yeah, like it's just like get your butt back on the block and post up. And it was just like as and I just graduated high school, here in a few months, it'll be 7 years. So it's really not even that long ago where, I was told that, I'm a center, I need to work on my post moves, and that's really it. Just in that amount of time, it's just like kids are now going just for shooting. And it's like, I never really was taught by coaches to shoot anything like that. Most of the any kind of shooting skills that I have is really mostly just on me. Any ball handling is mostly just on me because I was never taught to develop all these skills. It was like, this is your position. This is what you'll play. And it was kind of like you said, it's like, if you couldn't do this certain thing, okay, well, how do I get around that? My move, you put me on the right block. And I was gonna, I'm calling for ball. I'm gonna dribble, take one step inside the paint, fake, go middle, use a right hook, and that was a simple move, and ain't nobody guarding me. If I had 2 straight seasons in high school, I was averaging 20 because no one could fucking stop my post moves. It was just like if that's what you're good at, focus on that, but work on that overall game. Again, like you said, if you got to wait a little longer, whether it is till 9th grade or 10th grade before you really start working on these other skills like outside shooting, if that's what it takes to get you to be a better overall player, then that's unfortunately what you should do. And I feel like it's kind of weird. It's also kind of different nowadays because just because, and we were kind of discussing this the other days, kids are more focused on just like one topic rather than multiple. So all these kids are kind of training at a young age where it's like, I don't even know where half these kids, all these kids are low key better than me than when I was their age. So I don't know. Their development's weird nowadays.
Yeah, their development is like kind of ass backwards. And I don't know, man. That's why I feel like I've got a good opportunity with like, especially the middle school team, but just having your own program to like really hammer home the basics, because I think for the youth level, since we know that they're not strong enough to skip pass, like running a motion offense that's 5 out, like mathematically you're at a disadvantage. You know what I'm saying? Like those wing players or those baseline players are never going to be able to pass to one another. Like, so if you load up at least one side of the floor with 4 players, mathematically you're giving yourself the chance to not only take care of the ball, but to actually be able to pull off a play. So I don't know, man. Little by little, I think the culture will go back to running more set plays, and especially considering how passionate everybody is about the game now. Like the game's at an all-time high in regards to skill level, but I feel like the IQ is starting to catch up to like 90s level and 2000 level players like yourself and myself, to where we're like, yeah, like there's nothing against the 3-pointer. Like the 3-pointer is totally valuable, but like play from the inside out so that the 3-pointer isn't something that you're relying on. It's something that like presents itself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. Because again, I was never one who was allowed to take those shots. I did take a few of them my senior year, which all of them I missed. But you're right. The 3 was always a second or third option because we're always taught that the layup, the mid range, basically the closest you can get to the basket, that's always going to be the most high efficient shot because closer you are, the easier it is to make the shot. That's just common basketball knowledge. But now, yeah, the three's now the first, second, third option, and now post ups like the fourth or fifth option. The post options are probably the fifth option, and the layups probably the fourth option at this point. But we are teaching kids that you should go out of your not go out of your way, but you are looking for the best 3-point shot you can get, not really the best shot. We're kind of while we tell kids, you're looking for the best possible shot, but while we teach these kids how to play and while we're teaching these kids these set moves, more modern, set plays, we are teaching them that the 3-point shot is basically the first shot you can look for, and everything else is just a lower tier because it's not as important. And it's like you said, people who are, guys like us who take into account the value of, I'll even say 90s and early 2000s basketball, just those kinds of skills. And I did see a comment on the other day that the Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki, and Kevin Garnett power forward era is extremely underrated. And I would agree. I think those are three guys that people need to look for, because not only were they going to go and pound you kind of in the post, Dirk a little less so, but he was going to hit you with that fadeaway. But KG was all about, he was going to get you in your face, but he had a nice 15 to 18 footer, and you think with a little modern training, his 3-point shot would have probably been nice at 2 to 3 attempts a game, probably an efficient shot. Timmy, early in his career, he was cool with banging on you. So I mean, that those are three guys that I think people need to start looking back to, because they had a nice outside game and they had a real nice inside game, and those are overall games that you need to really develop, and those are the right guys to look at.
I was just thinking the other day too. It's funny that you mentioned that Celtics team, because I was watching what is it, games on League Pass, and I was like, bro, we didn't even get to see the big three when they were in their prime, bro. If everybody remembers the chronology of the big three, I really feel like the reason why the Lakers won that second championship 3 years after the big three were formed was because KG had really hurt his knee that second year, which is why the Magic ended up going to the finals. And KG honestly was never the same athlete after he had that injury. So for me, I'm like, if we're looking at KG's first year with the Celtics as his last year of his prime, and truth be told, statistically too, for Ray, he started to go down after that. Paul Pierce was really the only one that stayed consistent those 3 years before topping off once he got traded to Brooklyn. We really didn't even get to see that team during the best years that they would have had of if that team was put together 2 or 3 years prior, bro. That's a dynasty. That's a dynasty. Nobody is fucking beating that team, bro. Miami. Well, Miami came afterwards, but what was the team before?
But
Detroit,
Miami,
Cleveland.
but Miami won the chip in 06 though, so that still would have been during that era.
No, yeah. So what? They would have had to go through LeBron's Cavs or the Detroit Pistons when Chauncey Billups and Tayshaun Prince, all those dudes were on their last leg as well, bro. That's a dynasty.
Hey, but that low-key would have been a fire Eastern Conference though, because you're talking about LeBron's Cavs, you're talking about Miami Heat, Wade and Shaq, because this would have all been during 06 if they were together in 06. What were you just talking about? The Pistons, man. Who was in that playoffs? I'd have to go back, but man, that would have been a fire ass Eastern Conference playoffs though. If you had a prime Celtics team like that, all those dudes, shit. But I don't. Yeah, those guys could have been pretty great if they would have all been together during their prime. Obviously, that was kind of also one of the bigger what ifs for KG's careers if he would have just left Minnesota earlier. But it is what it is for him. But I feel like he's definitely an underrated player when it comes to, who you should look at when just taking ideas from their skills and trying to just learn off of them. Curry's great. Curry is always going to be an inspiration just because of his shooting, but he does give a lot of unreal expectations for how people should shoot. LeBron and Giannis, I'll mention them both together. They're fine to look at when trying to compare yourselves. I like to compare myself to LeBron a little bit as well. I like to put my head to the floor. I'll get to the basket. And, if there's an open pass, I'll make it out to the 3-point line, and that's kind of my game nowadays. But again, it's kind of unreal because not everybody can be that athletically gifted, that physically gifted. So people need to really look at the more realistic guys that are at the more realistic players that that they can become, because these guys, they're all looking at the outliers, the greatest of all times, when it's like you're only really seeing them at their peak. You're not seeing everything that they went through. And if you saw everything they went through, you'd understand why you're not allowed to do it.
Yo, and that's a great point. I feel like everybody wants to be Steph Curry, and it's like if you could just be TJ McConnell, like if you could,
You'd be
just
pretty fucking happy.
yeah, bro. Like if you could be TJ McConnell, because truth be told, like I don't know if you've seen your parents, they're not Del Curry and Aisha fucking Curry. Like they look like TJ McConnell's parents. So you should probably try and mold your game around TJ fucking McConnell. Like, yeah, no, I totally agree. Um, and I think that honestly, the game would be in a lot better shape if like people start to go back to the fundamentals, because I think that there is something fun about like, okay, yes, if you're a lethal 3-point shooter, obviously people are gonna respect that and they gotta chase you off the line. But bro, like there's so much more to basketball than just layups or threes. Like there's bank shots, there's post ups, there's mid range, there's set plays. Like, yeah, I don't know. There needs to be like a Steph de-evolution after the revolution of the 3-point, this 3-point revolution that he's ushered in.
Agreed. Man, I wish I was in Arizona right now, because I have several videos of just like post moves and stuff like that I would want to post to like TikTok or do something, but like I don't really have like the greatest access to gyms, and it's fucking cold outside, so my ass don't want to be outdoors. So man, because I've been wanting to post a lot of like I said, like post up videos and just like little 4 or 5 move just sequences that I remember a couple coaches, teaching me just to work on basic post moves. And they treated me well. That's how I averaged 20. So I can't really complain. It's a recipe that works. So obviously I wish I could have worked on my 3-point shooting, and I wish a coach would have worked on that with me a little bit more. But I was successful at what I did. So that aspect of basketball still works. So I don't know, and it is a huge responsibility on coaches now to, really any player that's around, really in their 20s, right around our age, should be, and even older, even the older coaches. I think there's a balance. You can't have a totally old school mindset. You need to accept that basketball has changed, but you don't have to necessarily say that. You don't have to necessarily go to the extreme that even Houston was trying to go to, where they were trying to run a small ball lineup of 4 shooters, and then you had Russ playing a small ball center. Or no, I guess you technically had PJ Tucker trying to guard the centers, but there's no reason to go to that kind of extreme, because you can still be successful going half and half. But it is on coaches nowadays to make that focus. But I feel like it's kind of like you said, because it's kind of trendy, it is more popular to post videos of guys doing weird ass exercises of them doing ball handling skills, or of them doing all these kinds of shooting that you should be doing. They only ever focus on 3-point shooting. So again, it's a trend, and we are forcing it down these players' throats, and it's not good. I hope the kids eventually end up learning it as they get older and experience the game more. But I don't know. I don't know how you I don't know how you solve that, other than just putting out enough content showing the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like it's an interesting problem to have. I don't know. I don't know if there's like I don't know if there's necessarily like an immediate solution outside of the trend kind of dying off, or it just, I don't know, man. I almost feel like there has to be like a literal trailblazer to come across and like introduce a different style of play. You know what I mean? Which is kind of why I'm excited to see the Grizzlies be as good as they are. Because, like, John, not to say he's not a good 3-point shooter, but, like, he's not the knockdown 3-point shooter that we've seen Steph, Dame. He's more like Russ, where he's attacking the basket, more of, again, kind of like an outlier, where maybe it'll show kids, like, I mean, Ja's also a freak athlete, so that's kind of tough. But maybe it'll show kids you don't necessarily have to have that 3-point be like so reliant as a 3-point shooter. Like, look at somebody like Desmond Bane, who's like his backcourt mate. Like, Desmond Bane's just a dog, bro. Like, he's always making the right play. He's D'ing up. He's shooting mid-range jump shots. Like, I feel like that's more, again, like, if you're looking at the Grizzlies, a lot of kids want to be Ja. It's like, bro, if you're just Desmond, that's all we need, bro. Like, just be that.
So I always think back to the Brian Scalabrine, his infamous quote, "I'm closer to LeBron than you are to me," and it's just like, dudes only take that in one sense, and it's the disrespectful kind of sense. Whereas, like, oh well, he's telling me I'm trash. Well, no, he's also saying like you should be happy about like where you're at as well. Like he not shit in the league, but man, that man will bust your ass on the court if you are just anybody else, if you're just a non-NBA player. And it's just, and again, it speaks to what you're saying, quit trying to be Steph, again, yeah, be a TJ McConnell, be, I don't know, even Dylan Brooks is shooting the ball pretty well. I know he's a big part of that. Who are some other just great shooters in the league? All of a sudden everything's just blanking to me. Even Patrick Beverly's a pretty good shooter nowadays. Be a Patrick Beverly. Don't be as annoying, but but he's even a good player to like imitate, just because he has his uses. He's not the best player, but he goes out, he hustles. His 3-point shot's gotten a lot better. There's no reason why you shouldn't even aim to be around his skill level. That'd be a great player.
No, yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know, man. I feel like, too, like, you and I came from the era where we were looking at teams like, what are the role players on this team that I could aspire to be like? Like, I don't think our generation of players, like, bro, we was fans of MJ. We were fans of Kobe. But I was like, yo, what's Sasha Vujacic doing to get on the floor? You know what I mean? Like, I was always more trying to key in on, like, the bench players. You know what I mean? And being like, what can I do to earn playing time like they're earning playing time? So I think that type of like approach to the game is another thing that kids should do. Like, not to say that they're not humble, but I just feel like we had a different type of humility when we were observing and watching the game of basketball. We knew, like, not that I can't be Kobe or Michael, but like the amount of work that it's going to take to be that player, like, isn't even going to start until I get to a league. So, like, I'm going to have to do what Sasha did, or what freaking Dellavedova is doing, to even get the opportunity to play, to become that player.
Yeah, and because again, people gotta quit looking at all the outliers and, oh well, if I can't get there, I'm not going to be successful. There are 435 players in the NBA, and only 75 of them get named to a list. So you got to quit your damn whining, and not even all of them are in the league. So you got to quit looking at trying to be the top 15 and be looking at, okay, well, how do I become, anywhere from 200 to 300? What about one of those players? Because you're probably still going to play. You're probably going to get some money, and you're gonna be a fantastic player. One of, if not probably the best 400 players in the entire world. So realistic expectations. And I feel like we touched on that the other day, where, you have to determine what your level of success is and kind of go from there. Quit putting it at the highest pedestal. Look at your first step. Take one step, and then take another step, and then take another step. Quit trying to jump 20 feet and be the best player. Instead, say, okay, I want to be as good as this player. Okay, well, I'm there now. I want to be as good as this player who's a little better, and keep going there from there. Don't just take the next step. Don't try and jump and skip steps, because or else you're just going to leave yourself disappointed overall.
No, yeah, facts. It's all about like incremental development and incremental success. But it starts in recognizing. I think training starts from recognizing what you're not. You got to be honest with yourself and be like, if I want to be a basketball player, like, what am I bad at? Like, what am I bad at so that somebody can help me get better at it so that I can ultimately get better. Because I think the thing with the three, too, is it's like you said, bro, like, even if you're dead set on, like, this is my game, like, you're not going to be shooting that way at a high percentage, especially not when you start. So it's just so much more advantageous to be working on different things and to just be patient in that aspect and in that regard. So I agree with you, man.
Well, I'm going to probably have to call it for the night. I'm going to have to start getting ready for bed and everything like that. Last day of the week for work. So I will let you go. We talked about a lot of great things.